You're listening to another episode of Mr. Rowley's Neighborhood. This is the place we're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
How y'all doing? Another great week. Got some really interesting news for y'all today. Some good information for y'all. I have Morris and Lisa Smith from Stop Restoration. I'm going to tell you what they do, particularly when your house has been damaged. Now, I know you do water damage. You also do like smoke damage and all that, or is it mostly water?
Water, smoke, fire, mold remediation, duct cleaning, commercial and residential.
We're going to talk about all of that because, you know, Lisa and I are members of the BNI group, that networking group. And when she does her presentation, I just want to run home and just make sure my house is still standing, you know. Or Melissa's the same way with the insurance, and you know, or Justin with the roofing is like, my God, I hope my home isn't cratered in when I get home, you know. So, but anyway, how long y'all been in this business?
We've completed 5 years in July, so now we're working on our 6th year.
Yes, and it's expanding a lot. You're always talking about how you need more help. Ed, have you found that person you've been looking for?
No, we're still looking. We're looking for someone that's a marketing executive that has experience actually in the Fort Worth area, Dallas-Fort Worth, that has an influence with larger organizations or being able to do on-site business-to-business interaction and build relationships. So that has been a hard find, as many employers have had challenges with that.
Well, you never know. Somebody may hear this and say, well, I know somebody or whatnot, because I've been talking to some of my sponsors and our friends at BNI, you know, and about, well, do you know anybody that can do this kind of stuff? And they're kind of like what y'all are. It's like, it's tough to find a good person these days because there's so many different demands made, I guess. I don't know. It's very difficult. But anyway, if we have people come and ask you questions, they'll be on that screen over there, or I'll read them off.
Okay, great.
Because they'll see them. I get them about 10 seconds after it hits that screen over there, because I'm following us along on Facebook and YouTube right now. But before we jump into all the fun and the details of what y'all do, let's talk about our sponsors, because that makes it all possible. CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. You do CrossFit exercise there. You're throwing a lot of iron around. It's not a exercise regimen for those who aren't serious. So, but it's a great place. It's clean. It's well managed. It's well supervised. They have training programs and trainers there. So you're not just going in there and kind of flailing about. You're going to have a organized workout there. Thank you, Daniel. I hope everything's doing well. Also, Shandy Stocks deal. You met Shandy at the BNI meeting. She and Daniel both are former students of mine, and they're both original sponsors, and I'm very appreciative of them. Shandy will be on every quarter. She was on us about 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about the rates, and I always enjoy talking with her because when she comes in, she has facts and figures and data. She comes prepared, which is just like she was as a student. It's kind of funny to me. You know, she has her homework done. And she'll tell you what's happening with the rates and what the rates are going to do, and, you know, what's happening to the real estate values and whatever else. So the Stocks Deal Group, she can help you out with that. She's also looking for another agent to add to her group, so who knows? I know y'all are looking. She's looking. There you go. Then, of course, Otto at our place. I know you've been there. We've been there before.
Great food.
Yes, we go there quite often. I go there, do my BNI business there, and he takes care of me pretty well. About every other Thursday morning, the men in my Sunday school class, we have our little get-together with the men and just talk football and stuff, you know, and sometimes if it gets serious about family needs, prayer group kind of stuff. And so it's a great place to go. By the way, Otto and I are sponsoring an election contest. We're not going to care how you vote, so let's not get into that. But if you send us an I voted picture on the Facebook page, his page, my page, whatever, send us an I voted picture with a sticker or the card, then we'll put you in a drawing or giving away two $50 gift cards. And y'all are eligible.
I will definitely be doing that.
Yeah, you know, so I was going to tell the BNI folks, you know, I think I told them, but I'm going to tell them again Wednesday, hey, you're all eligible, you know. And last time we did this, we did it for city council elections and whatnot, and we got like 200 contestants, that's the word. So we'll get probably more now with this election. And he's very generous with this kind of stuff. So early voting starts next week. And you don't have to tell me how you're going to vote. I remember one of the winners, I guarantee you canceled my vote out. And so so there you go. But anyway, Our Place Restaurant. All right. Also, thank you to Wild Cigar. Morris, you a cigar smoker?
I am.
Well, this is a place to go get your cigars because they have a really big and well-stocked humidor. And the people that work there are tobacconists, not, just high school kids or whatever they are. I mean, these people are trained. And if you have like a certain cigar, certain type of smoke, then, taste, whatnot, they'll be able to hook you up, and they have a bar and they have the TV, and it's not a sports bar, but they'll have the game on, probably on silent, so you can have a conversation. They also have a business meeting room. If you ever want to have a meeting with potential clients or whatever you would need, then they have a conference room for that. Okay, so thank you, Chris, for all you do. Also, now there's somebody I could recommend to you. Tiffany Nico now, formerly Tiffany Griffin at Local Life. She has an advertising magazine that gets about 30,000 homes, and it comes out once a month. She was on last Monday, and she has a great magazine. And you not only does it go to a bunch of homes, it goes to a lot of businesses. Otto will have about a dozen on his counter, and I went to a mechanic about a month ago, and he had a bunch on his counter. And so if you're looking to advertise in this area, that's a good place to do it. I like to think mine is a great place to do it, but Tiffany has everybody beat. Plus, she also has social media assistants and things of that nature. Okay, and also then some of these people you may know, Southern Jim Wigala. All right, she's gearing up for the Christmas holiday. She'll be on in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
No, I have her confused with another date. It's going to be middle of November, but she's going to have a big Christmas doing. She got layaway. She's got some gift cards, whatever else. It's really interesting. Robin really likes working there. I mean, not just because of the jewelry, but because of how Gala is, of course. Yeah, and Lisa's pointing to Morris like, you getting the hint? Yeah, he's like, Morris go, what? Oh, look at the time. Well, thanks for showing up. No, you got to take her up there. She's been up there. Robin and her have talked up there.
I'm familiar with them.
Yeah, you're okay. Okay. Christmas is coming.
Yeah.
And also, another friend of ours, Michelle Humphrey at Hot Works over at 731 on John Jones. It's a really great workout. And I've been over there 3 or 4 times, a little sponsor care, a little visit, say, how you doing? And it's a well-lit, well-maintained place. It's secure. It's got all these different programs, 11 different programs. I'm very impressed with Michelle. She's a great entrepreneur. She got that other one coming up, or I guess it's already open, the one in Las Colinas.
Yes.
And I wouldn't doubt if she has a whole chain of these in a few years. So, but Hot Works here in Burleson, a lot of people I know do it, and they just love it. Even, Taylor, you do it, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you do.
Good stuff.
Our friend Melissa over at State Farm, not State Farm, what did I just say? My gosh. Texas Farm Bureau. Sorry, Melissa. I was Texas Farm Bureau. I had State Farm about 30 years ago until we had a disagreement about a coverage plan. But anyway, Texas Farm Bureau, Melissa, at 682-804-0534. I switched all my insurance over to her. We just finished all the paperwork. I mean, you'd like to think it's just bing, bang, boom, but no, the guy had this piece of paper from this doctor and this piece of paper from that doctor and all this other business and this. But now our car and health insurance we have through TRS, both Rob and I do now, but our car and our house and our life insurance.
Awesome.
And it's good to have an agent.
Very good. We deal with insurance quite a bit.
And
let's just say they're not all created equal. But I know Melissa takes care of her people.
Oh, she does. I mean,
she definitely does.
Yeah, and so Texas Farm Bureau, I've been pretty pleased with. I mean, I fortunately haven't needed them yet. So, but Texas Farm Bureau's done me well. Also, this is our friend Danette. She's doing the one, Danette Juice Store with the Pinnacle Concepts, 303-324-9906. She's the one that's doing the redesign we showed you earlier. It's going to probably be done. Would you say before the end of the year, Taylor?
I'd like to see it done before the end of the year.
Yeah, I would too. It's because it's going to be a little bit more Tonight Show look,
Oh, wow. Neat.
With couches, chairs, whatever. Anyway, do we have any nonprofit things going on?
Not currently, I don't think.
I don't think, but of course, it's an ongoing thing with Harvest House and Center for ASD, with Bianca. Mm-hmm. We got about 3 or 4 that we promote regularly because they always got things going on. Next Step Women's Center. I went there to a fundraiser with them last week at fundraiser dinner, and it's touching to see how dedicated people are to the cause. It was a wonderful evening. But let's talk about y'all. So how did y'all get into this business in the first place? Was it your life's dream to get into restoration services?
I wouldn't say it's been our life's dream, but it's worked out pretty well for us. We've run different businesses since we've met, and we had a business that we run successfully until we didn't. And when we closed that down, since I'm not independently wealthy yet, we needed to find something else to do. And I was looking around at different opportunities, and this one sort of checked all the boxes, and it worked out, and here we are.
What were you looking for in terms of business? Not just for the what y'all do, but what other aspects of the business were you looking for? You said it checked all the boxes. What boxes were those?
So I didn't want to do mom and pop, right? So it had to have the opportunity to grow and evolve into a large enough business that makes sense. Certain income goals. We've got 3 kids. I have a wife that has really fine taste.
Well, obviously. Okay.
And that was those were 2 of the big ones. I needed to make sure it wasn't going to be mom and pop. I needed to have an opportunity where I could grow the business.
Taylor's sending you a message up there.
Oh,
okay.
And at some point, take a step back, hire general managers, and go on and do the next thing. And this kind of really worked for that.
Well, you want to be your own boss. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Did I not say that?
Well, I mean, it could tell because I talk to people who do businesses, and the unifying thing, it doesn't matter what industry they're in or what service they're providing or retail or whatnot, they always want to be their own boss. And I think a lot of people don't realize being their own boss is such a 24/7 job.
It never stops.
Yeah.
It's people talk about work-life balance, and for an entrepreneur, there's no such thing. You're sleeping, you're thinking about work. You wake up, you're thinking about work. I mean, it's just all the time. But I embrace it. This is who I am, and I love it. I couldn't imagine going back to work for another company.
I can't see that either. It's like people ask me when I go back to school and teach, and I'm like, well, I'm teaching enough to keep me happy, but I couldn't do it. Now, what did you do, Lisa, before you did this? What were y'all doing?
So before this, I was actually in corporate. I was a HR corporate executive for about 25 years with some larger Fortune 500 companies. You may know of a couple of them, AutoZone or Boeing.
Sure. Oh, my son works for Boeing.
Oh, awesome.
He works in
awesome.
Oklahoma City. I just saw him this weekend. He's an engineer for him.
Awesome. And then Intercontinental Hotels Group. You may know the chains of Holiday Inn, Crown Plaza.
Oh, sure.
So that's where I've worked before.
And do you miss it?
No, not at all.
I wouldn't think so.
I enjoy working for him. Corporate is a different animal. Your blood pressure still goes up in the entrepreneurship because you're conscious of families that you have to feed versus having the, what do we call the bureaucracy of a corporate.
Right. How many people work for y'all?
It varies. Right now, I think we're running at about 12 people.
Okay.
But during peak seasons, it will go up. Occasionally, it will come down a little bit.
You said peak season. Does this industry have a peak season?
So I guess it's really regional. So, for example, for us, usually right around Thanksgiving until January 15th, it slows down a little bit. People are thinking about Christmas time and family coming over, guests, et cetera. And so they're like, we'll just live with the mold in the house. We don't want to disturb anything.
Until the hot water heater bursts while they have company.
Yes.
And springtime is when we see a pretty nice an increased spike in work for us.
I would imagine. But just to be clear to the listeners, they'll hear it either now or later on in the podcast. What exactly are the services you offer?
So, when anything bad happens to a commercial or residential building, that's kind of where we step in. So floods, pipe breaks, leaks in the wall, hot water tank leaks, mold. We do a lot of mold remediation. We're licensed by Texas to do mold remediation. So if there's mold in a crawl space, mold under the sink, mold in the walls, we do that kind of work. We clean up after unattended deaths.
That ought to be interesting right there.
It is. I'm not going to get into it. Let's just say it's not for everyone.
I would imagine. I'm sure.
Duct cleaning, fire cleanup, that sort of thing.
Well, when Lisa's talking in her meetings, she's primarily talking about water and mold damage, which I guess is a real problem in the South. Because is there a house in the South that doesn't have mold issues? I mean, I know it's a big issue in Texas.
So that's there's a misnomer, because I often hear people say, "Oh, every house has mold in the crawl space, or every house is damp in the crawl space," and that's not true. If you have mold in the crawl space, there's a reason it's there. If you have water in the crawl space, there's a reason that's there. And the challenge is that when you have it in the crawl space, it generally doesn't stay in the crawl space.
Yeah. We, many years ago, well before I knew y'all, we had a hot water heater bust, but our hot water heater's in the garage. So we didn't have any interior damage, but around the garage area, we had to have that taken care of, because mold is not something that goes away by itself.
Yeah.
It's, at least I learned that lesson. This was about 15 years ago.
Okay.
And so we had to have that taken care of, and it wasn't exorbitantly expensive, but it could have been if I had neglected it. It cost me a few bucks, but if I had said, "Oh, it's in the garage, who's going to know?" Or who's going to care? And my kids started getting sick all the time, and my wife is pretty prone for mold allergies. I mean, it could get pretty bad, and so we took care of it then. This was about 2003 or something like that. But still, a lot of people think, well, it's just a little mold, no big deal. But it doesn't get better on its own.
Yeah, and that means it gets more expensive with time to take care of when you finally need to, and then. Another misnomer, people think, "Oh, well, we'll spray some bleach on it and that will take care of it." Well, bleach doesn't kill mold. It'll make it disappear, but it's still there, and it grows back in a few weeks.
One of my listeners here, Miss Shannon, who is a faithful listener, thank you, Shannon. She says, never heard it called unattended death. So we're talking about somebody that just passes away and they find out about it a day or two later.
Or a week or two later.
Oh, my goodness.
In the summertime with no AC in the house.
Paint a pretty picture. The other part of the unattended death is the hoarding piece. A lot of times they go hand in hand. And so we do the hoarding also, where that individual may have had an unattended death. Or if it's someone that's just living in a hoarding situation, we deal with that. And also odor control after the hoarding, because that's usually a piece that goes together. Those three kind of just tie together.
Because they're probably hermits and whatnot, and or isolated people, maybe no family, whatnot.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned this mold remediation. It's not something you just do. You have to get licensed and go through training and, get approved by the state of Texas. How long does that take?
You have to have a minimum of 2 years of industry experience before you can even apply for the license. And then you have to have an actual building where you're working out of, $1 million worth of insurance as a minimum. The actual process, once you submit the paperwork to get the license, is probably 6 months, maybe a little bit longer. But again, you still have to have 2 years prior to that.
Well, the stuff that you get off the counter, at Lowe's or whatnot.
Yeah.
Are we just wasting our time with that?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I figured.
And even if you could kill the mold spores, dead mold spores are hazardous to human health. So we're required to remove them, physically remove the mold spores, and there's different ways we do that: HEPA vacuums, HEPA filtration, negative air. Some things can be cleaned, but other things, like drywall, for example, you've got to remove the contaminated drywall.
That's what they had to do in my case.
Yeah.
Just took the wall out and put it back, other piece in. But a lot of people think, well, if I go to Walmart and get you some, I have a spray, aerosol spray thing, boom, 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 I'm done with my mold. But I said, well, I told a couple of people about this. It's going to come back, So you have to deal with it, not just to cope with it.
Right. And that's what you see, right? If you see somebody outside of the wall, often there's somebody inside of the wall that you don't see.
Is that the biggest part of your business?
Mold, yes, I would say.
It's about 60-40 between mold and water / other stuff.
Yeah, so in the water damage, that's not usually with flooding. Usually it's broken pipes or something like that, right?
When I use the term flooding, I just mean excess water where it shouldn't be, not necessarily from the weather. Here in Fort Worth, we don't really get weather-related flooding that often. It's usually from a broken pipe, someone hanging a TV and drives a nail through a water line, a water heater, solar company putting on it, water heater bursting, that's another thing. Water heaters will burst. It's not a matter of will it burst, it's when it will burst.
Oh, yeah.
And so they should have that little drain on the bottom of it with piping to carry the water outside when it does start to leak. And if you just do that, you'll save yourselves thousands of dollars in water.
Well, we do that now, but when the other story I was talking about from many years ago, it was sitting resting right on the ground, and then the water just kind of. One day I opened the garage door and this water comes out, and I'm thinking, what's happening here? And I could just see the leak coming, and that was a lot of fun. You know. And I'm the kind of guy who said, well, let's put a Band-Aid on it. You know, let's do a little duct tape and move. Let's not think about it, and it'll go away on its own. And Robin, no. Robin is like, we're taking care of that right now. I'm not having my baby sick because you're too cheap. So
The other place we see it too, Brad, is in the air conditioning unit. A lot of times the condensate lines get backed up, or even the pan. And so a lot of the times that's where the water will come to.
That happened to us also as well. We had a line from our air conditioning unit, and it got clogged.
Yes.
And we had to have that fixed. And some of the insulation got all damaged, and we had to replace that. And that was a while back too. But, it's home ownership, and
yes,
and we've been in our home for 31 years. And one question that I always wonder is about the soils here in Texas are always shifting. Does it bust your pipes, or are they pretty well insulated from those kind of shifts?
No, we do see quite a bit of slab leaks here in Texas, right? And a lot of homes have crawl spaces, so they're pier and beam, and so the pipes aren't actually in the ground. But a lot of homes have slabs, and the pipes are buried beneath the concrete slab. And as that slab shifts, we will find quite frequently that some pipes will, get damaged in the process, which is another thing a lot of people don't know about. Depending on your insurance policy, pipes under the slab may or may not be covered. So you should always ask your agent about that.
Right. Well, Melissa can answer those questions for you. But as far as the water damage, when she comes to the B&I meeting, she brings these monster fans and all these other heavy-duty equipment. And, I guess the point she makes, and she makes it very well, is that you're not going to get away from just doing it halfway. You're going to have to do this the right way the first time. Is her motto that she has us well trained in repeating. But if you try to do it as either not as cheaply, but just as quickly as possible, you're going to end up having to do it again, is what I've been told.
Or do the mold.
Mold.
Given enough time, anything that's wet will dry, but by that point you've got mold.
Right.
And grandma's box fan from the window isn't going to dry the wet carpet out.
No, these fans she brings in are pretty hefty industrial sized fans, they could blow.
It's fans, dehumidifiers, they're air scrubbers. The fans will get the water out of the material, but and into the air, but the dehumidifiers then pull the moisture out of the air and gets it out of the home. So there's a science to it. It's not just, let's get a box fan and throw it on there, because it's not going to work out well.
Well, a year ago, summer, Robin talked me into getting into a dehumidifier for our house. I'm like, do we really need one? And it helps, but you recommend every home, particularly in the summertime when it's really humid, to have their own personal dehumidifier?
No.
Okay.
If your AC is running properly, most homes are around 30-35% relative humidity here in the Fort Worth area, during the summertime. So you really don't need an additional dehumidifier.
It's too late now.
Right. Yeah, no, when an event occurs, that's when we bring in additional dehumidifiers to drop the humidity really quickly.
Well, the humidity in our house got around over 50%. And she said,
that's pretty heavy.
Yeah, and she's like, the mold issues, and then we're not going through this again. And so we got one, and it's fine. And what the handy thing about it, actually, is kind of a side benefit, was it's pulling the moisture out, and so it collect the water at the bottom in the tray. And when we're going through that drought, we'd have water to at least keep our hydrangeas and other plants keep going without having to run the hose. We didn't have to run up a huge water bill, because when it's pretty humid, we'll have maybe 2 to 3 times we need to empty it, and so we're watering their plants with it, and so it was a side bonus. So I guess it pays for it, because water bills can be a problem. Now, as far as like smoke damage, I always get the impression once you have smoke damage, you're going to have it for the rest of the life of that building. Is that true, or can y'all get rid of it to the point we'd never know it?
Not if it's properly remediated, right? The whole point of what we do is to restore the property to the way it was prior to the event. So if you didn't have a smoky smell before the event, you shouldn't have a smoky smell after the event. again, like any other profession, you've got really great people and you've got some that aren't as good. But if you hire, a good qualified company, your home should be just like it was, smell just like it was prior to the event.
Taylor, do you have some of their material that they sent us? It's going to be popping up here on the screen. Here we go. And what are y'all doing here? It looks like you're doing some sort of mediation.
Right. So
more so here, on the left, you'll see it.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's a clinic that we're working on in Fort Worth, and it had mold in it. In fact, if you look at the wood against the wall and the lower portion of the cinder blocks, you'll be able to see some of the mold damage. And that technician is hanging containment to block the ceiling off because it's a drop ceiling. Basically, we seal up the entire room and install HEPA air filtration devices so that when they do start to take care of the mold, none of it can get out into the rest of the building.
How long does a restoration take? I know it's depending on the size of the building, but say like a 2,200 square foot home.
So it depends on what's affected, but let's say mold. A lot of times we'll run into mold in the kitchen area underneath the sink, perhaps. Yeah. That's usually from the day we start to the day you receive clearance testing from the independent third party. It's about 10 to 14 days. Now, the guys are probably only on site 4 days, but then there's additional steps that have to be taken if we follow the state guidelines.
Do the residents have to leave the home while you do this?
Not normally, no. This here is another good picture of that. This is someone's bedroom. Actually, this was right here in Burleson, I think. And we were able to section off the affected portion of the bedroom with these poles and that 6 mil polyethylene sheeting. So they were able to sleep, right of 2 feet to the left of that photo while the guys were working in here.
Wow. Okay. You have to wear all that hazmat uniform and things of that nature.
Respirators.
There's your logo. How about that? Now you said this is a franchise. How did, you're the only one though in this area with this particular group.
Right.
And you've been with them 6 years. I guess they treat you okay.
They do. Okay. It doesn't hurt that we send royalties to them either.
Yeah, I'm sure they get their taste, as they say. But as far as the business here in the Burleson Crowley area, how far do y'all go out to do a home or a business? Yeah.
We try to stay in the metropolitan Fort Worth area, but we've gone out to Plano, we've gone out to Dallas, down Joshua's not, that's nothing for us to do. So we focus most of our marketing efforts within a 30, 45 minute of Crowley, but we'll go further if necessary.
Well, Plano's where I grew up, but it's a lot different town when I grew up. Not much different. I mean, I grew up there in the '70s. It was just a suburb, and now it's all it is. But so you'll make the trip, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's. But like, you get these things happen where you're at dinner, it's 7 o'clock at night, you get a phone call saying something's bust and I need you right now. Does that happen a lot?
It happens it happens quite a bit, let me put it that way. But thankfully we're set up for 24-hour response. So 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, someone will answer the phone and we'll be able to sort of get the wheels in motion.
Even on holidays.
See, that's the thing about having a business like this. You could be sitting down to Thanksgiving dinner and you get a phone call and, something's happened and, it's a crisis and you can't say, well, it's too bad. We'll pray for you, brother. And they hang up the phone.
And we literally have had two like that. We had one that was Thanksgiving and one that was Christmas because a lot of times that's when you have more guests in the home and you don't recognize that that's happening. So we always make sure people know that we will definitely come take care of your emergency during those times.
That's tough on the family, though, right? Now, your children are grown, though, aren't they?
Yes, they're all grown.
Yeah, so are mine. And so at least you don't have to get away from Santa and the toys or whatever else you got going on. But still, it is family time. And there is no vacations, are there? Or it's tough to take one.
Yeah, we started being able to take 4 or 5 days off at a time to go visit the grandkids in Kansas, which is pretty awesome. That was kind of a major milestone for us because we couldn't leave for years. We couldn't leave. We had to be here or shut everything down
or come back.
Yeah, or come back
because we would be on a plane and you'd be in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner and literally like, okay, we got to go catch this flight.
But thankfully now we're staffed with the right people that things can happen without us being directly involved.
Well, that's nice, but it takes a while to get to that point. And I've talked to other entrepreneurs, some that I mentioned earlier on the show, the sponsors, And like you say, that's all it is consuming. That's you wake up in the morning and you go to bed at night. That's the what you're thinking about. And even if you don't want to, even if you're saying, no, I'm going to read, I'm going to watch this ball game, I'm going to do whatever, I'm going to relax, and it's very tough.
Still on your mind. The good thing for us is I work with my wife, so it's not time apart.
Yeah,
I could see where that could put a strain on a relationship, but we work together, so. We're together day and night.
But y'all aren't native to Texas. You were from. I know you spent time in Tennessee. You mentioned in Washington State. For some reason, I thought y'all were from Georgia. As you mentioned, you lived in Atlanta for a time, right?
That's where we met, actually.
Okay.
But originally from Florida, and he's originally from New York.
Really? That's right. Your father worked for the police department out there, right? So you New York City and all that.
Yeah, I don't talk about that too much.
He doesn't want to go back.
Well,
we like Texas. That was one of the places we always wanted to land, and this is home for us now. It fits really well.
I think so. I think Texas is God's country. I feel sorry for these Yankees.
I do too. Well, they're coming though.
Yes, they are.
I was going to say it's been 30 years since I lived in New York. They couldn't pay me to go back to that place.
Well. What do y'all like about Texas? I mean, you've had a chance to compare, and Georgia and Tennessee are really nice. I've never been to Washington State, so
gun laws. Number one, I'm a 2A guy, right? So that's where I start. But the other thing is small government. People talk about our governor, but the way I see it, I don't want anything from government. Leave me alone. Stay out of my way. Let me be successful or fail. That's kind of who we are as a people. That's what America is all about. And I don't want anyone playing nanny. I've got a dad. I've got a mom. I don't need the government to be that for me. And kind of Texas is like that. People mind their business. They let you do what you're doing. The government doesn't get in the way. And people are really nice, warm, and friendly.
I think so.
Yes, I would agree.
I've lived here almost all my life, all but maybe a year and a half when I was a child. I lived in North Carolina ever since, all the time I've been in Texas. And there's a reason why people are coming in California and by the hundreds and the thousands, and their businesses are moving, and they're moving out of Chicago, and they're moving out of other places like that, moving to Austin. And Austin, it's different. Austin's different, okay? We joke about it a lot, the People's Republic of Austin, because it's like this little blue dot in the middle of a red state. But I love Fort Worth. There's no other town I'd rather live in than this area, because I just think, like you described, people are nice. They don't bug you too much, and the government's not going to get all over you, I hope. Of course, when you're dealing with bureaucracies, you're probably dealing with both the government and insurance companies. And I bet that's a very fun day dealing with the insurance companies.
That's one of the most stressful things I think I deal with in my business is the insurance company side of it. But it is what it is, right? So you do the best you can.
Oh, what's the usual hang up with these guys? You didn't specify what kind of mold or blah, blah, blah. I mean, are they trying to not pay or whatever?
So one, a lot of homeowners don't realize that they probably don't have mold coverage. And if they do, it's probably not enough. And so we run into these situations where homeowners have thousands of dollars worth of damage, and they've got their challenges on how they're going to pay for it because they find out the hard way they don't have the right coverage. The other thing is insurance companies are businesses like any other business, and they have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to minimize their expense ratio. And to them, a claim is an expense, right? So they don't want to pay the claim, or they want to pay as little as they can possibly pay. And unfortunately, policyholders usually don't really know or understand what the terms of their policy are or what the laws are in Texas regarding, that sort of thing. And so it's really hard to see them not necessarily treated the way I would like to treat them or like them to be treated. And of course, I'm unable by law to sort of provide them, much in terms of guidance and coaching and counseling. There's a whole set of laws about that, right? The agent makes the difference. That's the advocate for the homeowner.
Literally, it's the advocate. And we're big proponents of that, like how you advertise, Melissa. But it makes a big difference in the type of insurance policy you purchase and just understanding where you are. So when the situation happens, because it's going to happen, it doesn't always happen to everyone, but when it does happen, you want to make sure you have the right coverage. And I always say, I tease and I say it, we're like the funeral home. You may not need us today, but you may need us tomorrow, and that's why we're here. And as you know, I always say that's why you would always choose STOP, because we do restoration right right the first time. You don't have to worry about if, our morals or our ethics, because we treat your home as if our home, because it is. You're letting us in your personal space, and we want you to be comfortable of whom you're letting in your door.
Oh, that's a good point. So I always tell folks when we meet them and do these preliminary assessments, our industry is like any other, whether it's auto mechanics or plumbers or doctors. There's good ones, and there's some that aren't so good. So I always encourage people to go and look at our Facebook, YouTube, Google page, Google reviews. And that's one of the best ways that citizens can sort of figure out who they want to do business with and who they want to stay away from.
Yes, and kind of go back on one thing. I was under the impression that mold coverage and insurance wasn't available in Texas.
Oh, it is.
It is, okay.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, then I misunderstood.
Yeah, it is. The policies that do have it often have a $5,000 cap, though. And $5,000, unfortunately, often is not enough to cover even a moderate-sized mold remediation project.
Good heavens. So if you have mold, you're going to have a real issue. But I've lived in the South, Texas all my life, and it's always, black mold has always been a problem. And it's always been problems for people that have sensitivities to it and allergies and whatnot. So I don't see why anybody would not have mold coverage in their homes, because, I don't know if it saves you any money by not doing it, but you're going to be paying for it eventually.
Right. I always say, unless you're independently wealthy and ready for that, always have whatever coverage they can provide as it relates to mold. But the other thing about it is, there's two things I want to address. One, we do offer financing through a third party, so that helps a lot of times with situations where it becomes a larger bill. But the other thing is people hear the term black mold, but mold comes in many shapes, sizes, and colors. It can be green, it can be black, it can be yellow. So we always want to make sure we put it out there, because of course, here in the state of Texas, with the situation that happened in the Austin area with the mold coverage, which is why I think Texas became so much further involved in it, which is a great thing to help the constituents and folks of the Texas area, because Texas cares.
Right.
After that case happened. So.
But we had that Freeze-Mageddon a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Did it really give you a high demand for your business?
Oh, yes. We had to literally turn off the phones. Before we could even finish, and we didn't want to set ourselves up for failure or get a bad Google review as a result. We had a waiting list of 68 people,
Good
literally.
night.
And we're one of many restoration companies. Now, of course, we're the best.
Of course, because you do it right the first time.
You do it right the first time. But you want to make sure you do it right. And we don't want to take on too much work, because we also want to deliver on that. But we also know how to scale up with the staff when it does come to that. But Snowmageddon was crazy, and that was for everybody, because who expected the grid to happen? It was always predicted to happen in the summer, and it ended up happening in the wintertime.
Well, what was the main problem?
The biggest challenge for that was not necessarily the people, it was equipment.
Yes.
Oh, I'd
So
imagine.
the roads were frozen. We had semi-trailers full of equipment in Chicago ready to come and deliver to us. But because the roads were frozen, they couldn't get the equipment here. And the amount of equipment that was in the DFW area just wasn't enough to service all of the issues that we had, and that's not just our company. I mean, I was calling our distributor trying to get additional equipment. I was calling other companies that we've developed relationships with, trying to get it, and, local companies, and they were all out of stock as well, and you just couldn't get anything else in on the road.
What was the main problem in terms of what was the damage that this caused? Was it the bust pipes?
It was the broken pipes, and so for the first, I remember it was February 14th when this happened.
Yeah.
So the first 7 to 10 days, it was water. So, we're trying to dry properties, et cetera. After the 10th day or so, there was no more drying. Now it's all mold, because now you're seeing the mold develop.
Even at that sub-zero temperature we were going through?
Mold doesn't care about temperature.
Okay. So I always thought it was like the hotter and more damp it is, the more it grows.
What happens is the warmer it is, usually the humidity is higher. So it's the humidity that really encourages to amplify. But we spent over a year doing mold remediation projects from that one freeze.
Over a year. Well, I mean, I guess it's good for your business, but it probably wasn't good for your personal life, I guess, because y'all probably were 24/7.
I'm okay with that.
I was going to say, you drew a
Feast or
distinction.
famine.
There really is none.
Really, you consider yourself like a workaholic kind of person? I mean, do you always want to be busy working? I do. At my advanced age, though, I like a little downtown, a little reading time, whatever.
Well,
but
the exception is, like I mentioned, our grandkids in Kansas.
Right.
So we do love to do that. But for us, there's not much of a difference between our personal time and our work time. They really overlap.
And the other thing, too, the reason why we want to be busy is we feed families, their employees, and we're more concerned about them making sure that they have and can provide for their families because, it's all about small business, and we're talking about that. And, one of the reasons also we come to Texas because it's a big supporter of small business and being able to encourage, what the American freedom and American dream is, allows you to do.
Yes, and nothing says that more than the home. For most people, that's their wealth.
Yes, it is.
It's my case. I mean, I'm not independently wealthy, but that home has to. And my wife is very good about making sure we keep it up. I sometimes like, oh, I really don't want to spend the money on that. But she's like, no, we're going to do it. This is our home. This is our retirement. This is everything we own, basically. Because we don't have big old huge portfolios and whatever else. And so, I think very few things are more closer to the heart than your home.
Correct.
Because everything's tied in, all the memories in it. Now, we've lived in our home for 31 years. And I doubt we're going to move because I don't want to move all that stuff. And we have a decent home in a decent neighborhood. So what's the point, But still, because we don't need any more space than we do. But still, the point is that, you're dealing with something that's probably is of any tangible thing other than family. This is the most important tangible thing in the lives of these people.
It's the largest investment most people have in their entire life. Yeah.
So y'all been doing this 6 years here. Did you do it also in Georgia and Tennessee, or did you start your business here?
No, we started this here. Lisa and I did a lot of general contracting and house purchasing and rehabbing and stuff, for the first few years when we met. So we had, some hands-on experience working on properties and construction and that sort of thing, which it's different, but some of those skill sets, directly translate. And my dad, in addition to being a police officer, he was a general contractor. So, I spent every summer hanging drywall or doing light plumbing and those sorts of things. So I was never afraid of a screwdriver and a hammer. Oh,
I'm so technically inept with that stuff. I mean, that's a real problem for me. I can't do it. I'm not mechanically inclined at all. But still, you got into this here in Texas, and you've been here 6 years, and you're growing as a business. I listen to Lisa talk, and I know that. Every business has their ups and downs, but y'all seem to be increasing every year just about.
Yeah, we've been blessed. God has really sort of provided for us. And, we have not, every year has been better than the previous year, with one exception, which is when COVID first came.
Oh, I'll bet.
That really killed us. But a lot of businesses didn't make it through COVID. And so we made it through, and we're still here and we're thriving, and we're able to provide jobs to folks and give them ways to feed their families. And, that's one of the most rewarding things I find about being a business owner is you're making a way for other people to provide for their families. So.
Where are y'all located? Do you have your outside building, or you work out of the home?
No, we were right off 1187 and Chisholm
Williamson.
Trail. Well, Williamson and 1187, which is about a quarter mile from Chisholm Trail here in Crowley.
Mm-hmm. And so how would people get a hold of you if they need you for either remediation, water damage, smoke damage, whatever else?
Sure. They can get us on the website, stoprestoration.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Google. So anywhere, stoprestoration.com. And then our phone number is 682-703-0213.
24 hours a day.
So you have like an answering service, or do you pick up the phone yourself at 3 a.m.?
So after hours, the phones rings to Lisa and I. During hours, we've got office staff and such. But I just don't want to miss anything, and I haven't found an answering service that I trust to be able to handle those after-hour calls yet. So far, Lisa and I are taking them.
Because usually at that time, it's either water or it's fire.
And it's emergency.
And it's emergency services, and they need it then. And we want to make sure that they get the response. We don't want to tell them, we'll see you in the morning. We will go out. We have done it many a times, gone out at 9 at night, midnight, 2 a.m. Some folks like, you're coming? And we're like, yes. If it's still running, we're coming, so how can we help you and try to minimize and help them with it, because it's more than it's a psychology to it too, because some parts of it, you're dealing with emotions. I mean, people have never had this happen. So thank goodness that we've been blessed to be able to understand and have good soft skills in terms of how to dealing with people issues, because it's that part too.
So you'll come out at 3 a.m. Wow.
Yeah, we've done it.
You'll pay for it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure.
But if you've got water coming from your second story, coming down, flooding your bottom floor, you're going to want us to come
People
out.
they've never dealt with this sort of thing, and it's like a deer in headlights often. They just need someone to say, you know what, it's okay. It's going to be all right. We do this every single day. Here are the next 3 steps we need to take, and we'll hold your hand and walk you through.
Well, it's interesting you're talking about the water coming down. I had a friend just about a month ago. He lives in McKinney, and he had his water heater below or whatever else, and it just caved in part of his ceiling. It was upstairs where the water heater was, and caved in part of his ceiling. And he's still waiting for it. Because are y'all having trouble with materials and labor getting?
No.
Well, I guess they are over there, but.
That's because they didn't choose who.
Yeah, right. Well, would you go to McKinney?
Yeah, we've done work up there.
Yes.
Okay, well,
Frisco, McKinney.
If he hasn't had it taken care of yet, I'll have him give y'all a holler because he still has the plastic wrapping hanging around, and all the stuff. The business. Yeah, it's slow progress over there. So, I really, you ought to know, Marcia, your wife really, I was kind of kidding her about her run. I mean, she really is an important part of BNI. I was just kind of kidding her, but she really is an important part. And we all consider her an influential voice in our meetings and somebody of respect. And so that's a good thing. And I could tell, I don't know, just to seeing y'all, I could see y'all are a good match, y'all a good pairing. Y'all been married how long? 23 years, you said?
20 years.
20 years.
20 years, yeah.
We've known each other about 22, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least 22.
22?
Maybe 23.
It may be 20. That might be what it said. I had to think about it. We never get that right, but we always get the marriage right because it was 20 years last month, actually. We don't.
That's the
It's so
important
funny.
part.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we're coming close on time. I always let the guests have the last word. What y'all tell us whatever you want to know, what the people want, or in other words, what the audience, what you would want them to know. Just open floor.
So there are a lot of people have a lot of choices. There are really large franchise operations that, we all know the names of that do work similar to what we do. And what I tell folks is, we're a small, locally owned company. My name is on all the corporate paperwork. So at the end of the day, my name, my reputation, and by extension, my family's name, reputation, my wife, my father, my children, we all our name is on the line here. And so when we get a call and someone asks us to come out and help them, we do right by them. We don't cut corners. We don't take shortcuts. We don't say, hey, you know what, we'll get to you when we get to you. We tell them we're going to be there between 2 and 4. By God, one way or the other, we're going to be there between 2 and 4. Because at the end of the day, this is our company. And we care. We're not just some big corporate, thing out in California with an 800 number, and you get through voicemail nightmares and such.
I can't stand getting on there and say dial 1, dial 2. I want to talk to a human being.
Press 2 for Spanish. No. Just call me. We'll answer the phone. At the end of the day, the buck stops here, and so we have to make sure we do restoration right the first time.
Did y'all come up with that yourself?
That's a slogan, corporate slogan.
Corporate slogan. Okay.
I wish we could take credit for it.
Yeah, okay. Well, she has us repeating it. You have anything you'd like to add, Lisa?
No, I think he said it all. The only thing I would say is we take care of your home or your commercial property as if it's our own. And we really believe in that.
Well, I learned a lot, though. I really did. And I hope the people that listen to this either have listened or listen to it later learn about it. Because I hear things about mold. I hear things about water damage. And I'm glad to have an expert that I could call and get the straight story and not a lot of hair pulling and carrying on but just here it is. And I appreciate that.
That's another good point. If anybody has questions about any of this stuff, call the office. I promise you we won't try to sell you. If you want help, we'll give you help. But if you just have questions, maybe about the process in Texas for mold remediation, or if, I have water in my carpet, do I have to pull it up? Should this other restoration company pull it? Call us. We'll be happy to talk to you.
And that's why I'm really, really glad you came on the show, because I can vouch for y'all personally, not just, they're really good at what they do. I can vouch for the character of the people involved. And that makes it a lot easier to say, welcome to the show, and I'm glad you were here, and I hope this helps y'all out. Tomorrow I got Victoria Johnson from the City Council coming on, and Thursday's an open date right now. I'm trying to work on a particular guest, but I'd rather not say because the schedules may not work, and I don't want to advertise it and have it fall through. If not, don't worry, guys. I have plenty to talk about on Thursday. This government is the gift that keeps on giving. So always plenty of material to use. All right, and remember the election contest, all right? It starts next week. All right, thank you. Thank you, Taylor.
Always.
And we'll see you tomorrow about noontime.